Right, so this is a demo slide based on the template that you have, and there are a couple of topics that I'm going to want to cover. How to change your background, how to change the font, how to use word art if you want to use word art, how to insert the images, and how to arrange items on the slide. Please bear with me because sometimes my computer just doesn't want to cooperate when I'm demonstrating this stuff. So we'll start with changing your background. So there are a couple of options for changing the background. One is theme. So if you come up here to your menus, come up here to menus at the top, you'll see theme. And they give you different styles. And sometimes they take forever to load. But you'll see they change the background for you, sometimes put shapes in. If you want to do one of the themes, just make sure that the words aren't being blocked. So like I wouldn't want to choose this one unless I did something with the font, with the letters, because that I'm listening to is kind of blocked up there. So that is one option, choose a theme. Another option is to come to the background menu, and you can just choose a color. So you can have a solid color, and it'll change the background of the font to that solid color. You can have any color you want. Or you can do what's called a gradient. So a gradient is a color that just has varying degrees of light and dark in different spaces around. So you can see this green one kind of has a light in the middle and it gets darker as you move out. So those are some options for your background. You can also choose an image. So when we talk about uploading images and using them, another option is to just put your own image in the background. I would always caution that can get too busy and make it real difficult to read. So those of you who said, I want my slideshow to look professional, it's a weird balance between having a lot of visuals that are interesting and not cluttering it up so people get overwhelmed. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is fonts. So fonts are the style of letters in your presentation. So I've already typed these for you, these headings. So if you want to change the font, make sure you highlight them first and pull up your font menu, and you can change the style of the font. You can also change the size. So if you go up here, you can make it smaller, you can make it bigger. My advice with presentations, particularly title slides, is try and keep it on one line if at all possible. You can also change, I have it set to bold right now. You can make it normal, you can italicize it, you can underline it, whatever works for you. You can also change the color of the text. Definitely don't put red text on a red background, although that doesn't look too bad. So if you had a darker background, choosing a lighter color will help that title and help the words pop out a little bit more. And then you can also change the alignment. To demonstrate this, I'm actually going to drag this down here a little bit and make it bigger on all sides. So we talk about alignment. That menu sometimes is hiding up here. We're talking about you can make it centered to the left, to the right. But you can also change where it appears. If you got a text box, do you want it at the top? Do you want it in the middle? Do you want it at the bottom? Typically for titles, I kind of like to keep them at the top. So I'll shrink that back and move that there. And if you have questions about what I'm doing or if there's something extra you'd like to know, as always, interrupt, unmute your mic, or just pop something in the chat. Okay. Word art is another option, which can be fun, but there's not much you can do with word art you can't do elsewhere. But word art is here. It's insert word art. Now, what makes this a little frustrating is you have to type it ahead of time. And if you want it to be on multiple lines, you got to do this shift enter. But But what WordArt does is it creates sort of this dynamic font. If you have a regular font, you can't make it squish up like that. You also can't include a stroke on a regular font. Stroke is the outline on the letters that you see in the WordArt. And so all of that's controlled here by this menu. You could make your border on it thicker. You could change the color on the border for your WordArt. But if you want to change what it says, you always have to double click and change the typing in here. I'm not going to use WordArt, so I am just going to delete that. Next thing I wanted to talk about is the doozy, which is inserting images. So if you already have images in your Google Drive that you want to use, it's pretty easy. You just come up to Insert Image and go to your drive, and it will pop up a list of your most recent or allow you to search through your drive. So we can just take any one of these. So we do that, it inserts the picture, and now you can do whatever you need to do with it. Now, another option I'm sure is a lot of people will search on the web for their pictures. So if you come up to Insert Image again, you can actually search directly from the web. If you have a picture on your computer, you can upload it directly there. If you use the search from the web option, it does kind of limit what they'll show you, but let's say you wanted a picture of, I had a tiger up earlier, a lion. It'll give you lots of different options. It'll let you preview how big it's going to be, show you where it comes from, and then you can insert. The other option is to go directly to a website and do an image search. So if I just come to Google and I look up lion, I go to images, it's going to give me a lot of those. Oh, that's it. It's going to give you a lot of those same images. And one thing I would pay attention to is down here where it gives you the size. 1280 by 720 is a good size. So if it's too small and you make it bigger on your slideshow, it kind of blurs out. But you can just right click on that, copy the image, go back to your slideshow, and paste. No, it's not going to do that, sorry. So use your shortcut. I'm on an Apple, that's why you saw that weird symbol, but for you it'd just be Shift-V. I'm sorry, Control-V. And that will paste that picture in. One thing a pet peeve of mine with images in slideshows is when people will try and resize and they're like, oh, I want it bigger. I want it to go down to here. I want it to go over to here. And now you've taken your image and you've completely blown it out and it just looks strange. So always make sure if you're going to resize an image that you resize it from the corner, because that'll keep your ratio the same. It'll change the size of the picture, but it'll make sure that it stays in the same ratio. So I hope that gives you some idea of how to work with pictures in Google Slides. And we're almost done here. We talked about quality and scaling, and finally I wanted to talk about arranging items on the page. Now Google Slides has done something that makes it real easy. So watch what happens when I grab this, I hold onto it and I drag it across. Notice how those red lines keep popping up? Those red lines are designed to help you line up objects. So if you get the big one all across the screen, it's telling you this is centered on the screen. If you get one underneath an item, so that is telling you it's going to be centered under clubs and activities. So that's sort of one thing they do to make it easier if you want to make sure things are lined up together. But, and a lot of people don't know this, I didn't really learn this until I started working with some of the Adobe programs last year. Let's say you have several items. If you hold down Shift and click on different items, it'll grab them all at once. And if you go to right click, you can change the grouping. And so this is a line horizontally. It'll take them and move them all where you want them to. So let's take a look at these now. You can see they're out of alignment. This time it should work. So if we want to align them horizontally, notice it takes those items and centers them. And that, I think, is it for topics that I needed to cover on Google Slides. I hope that this was helpful for people who said they were having trouble understanding just how to use the program, how to get prepared.